You're listening to the InFocus Interview Show, brought to you by Photofocus.com, an online publication filled with education and inspiration for visual storytellers. This episode is made possible by our partners, Lume Cube, the world's most versatile light, and Drobo, a smart storage solution. Now here's your host, Vanelli.
Hello and welcome. I'm Vanelli. Now, my guest is content director for Emerald Expositions, the group responsible for photography conferences such as WPPI and Photo Plus, along with magazines PDN and Rangefinder. Please welcome Arlene Evans. Hello, Arlene.
Hi, Vanelli. How are you today?
Oh, doing great. Now, our topic today is going to be on how conferences and major photography magazines are changing in the industry. Now, before we do that, I know you're an amateur photographer. So how did you get involved, like this whole photography conferences and magazines?
Well, I was living in Los Angeles at the time, which is where WPPI was headquartered in the mid-2000s. And I was friends with the gentleman named Skip Cohen. He was president. He was president of WPPI at the time. And the director of WPPI left. And he asked me if I would be interested in taking the position because he wanted someone who wasn't really involved in the professional photography industry, sort of a neutral party to come in with fresh eyes. And little did I know that 15 years later, I would still be in this industry, but I said yes. So,
well, as you know, Skip is an incredible judge of character, so that says a lot for you.
Well, thank you.
And he always has a way of thinking outside the box. And so to bring somebody in a position that you have, that's not a full-time professional photographer, I think it speaks volume. There's no ego involved. You're looking at it with a fresh set of eyes. And I just think it's a great, I think it was way ahead of his time. So congratulations for that.
Well, thank you very much. I owe that to Skip.
Great. All right, so let's talk about the events that are happening now. You guys just announced a major bombshell. What was that?
Yes, we announced that the PDN brand was going to be retired. And with that was that we were discontinuing the publication not only of PDN magazine, but of Rangefinder as well.
Good. But you'll still have Rangefinder in the digital format.
That's correct. We're going to be creating all the content now on rangefinderonline.com. We are actually in the process of redesigning the website to better house the information that we want to put on there now. We want to expand coverage. We want to cover industry trends and gear and not only what's happening in the wedding and portrait world, but other areas of photography as well, so that we can better serve our customers, the photographers who have been very faithful to the Rangefinder magazine since the 1950s. So
Wow.
That's really exciting.
It's funny because some people look at that as a negative, saying, oh, my Lord, I can't believe this PDN, they're no longer having print publication. Well, think of all the major magazines, not just in the photography world, but outside of the photography world that are switching to digital. It makes sense. It's cheaper. You can make changes to it immediately, and you can get things out to the public faster. So I'm looking at this as kind of a positive step. How do you, as a content creator yourself, how does this affect you? How are you looking at it from your perspective?
Well, it's going to be a big job because, as you know, putting out a monthly magazine is very different than creating content on a daily basis where you're going to keep, photographers will want to come there and learn the latest of what's going on in the photography industry. And we really try to be on top of that with both magazines. But now It's going to be a fresh look. It's going to be a fresh perspective. We've discovered through surveys, and you will know this as well, younger photographers take in their information from social media or online, whether it's YouTube or they're looking at Facebook to see what other photographers are doing. They're reading their news on, CNN.com. So we're just trying to be cognizant of what our readers want, and they want to get their information online.
Well, that makes sense. All right, so PDN, she had two different magazines. You had PDN, you had Rangefinder.
That's correct.
What was the difference between the two?
Well, PDN was focused more on commercial, fine art photographers. It was a very different. There was some overlap, but it was more commercial photography. Whereas Rangefinder, started as a wedding publication, then expanded into wedding and portrait. And as you know, portrait now has really taken off with so many different genres, whether it's boudoir or pets, or it's just not the typical family portrait anymore that you think of. They're just so many different areas in portraiture. And so Rangefinder has also gone along with those trends as well. So it really was a different focus than PDN.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And then that's where you have the different groups, because you have WPPI as a conference, and then you had Photo Plus. So you had WPPI on the West Coast of the United States, and then you had Photo Plus on the East Coast
Right.
of the United States.
Right.
So
they did try to do Photo Plus on the West Coast once a long time ago, and it didn't work. So New York is definitely the best place to have Photo Plus.
Gotcha. Great. All right. So without PDN, with that part of the publication gone, where do you see that being integrated with Rangefinder or other things you're doing?
Well, the content is not going to go away. What we're going to do is look at all the content we've had over the years from PDN, and we're going to take what was meaningful from that and disperse it to the other sites. So whether it will live on photoplus.com, Rangefinder Online, or WPPI, that content will still be there because it's still relevant, and we want to make sure that people still have access to it.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it's interesting. You go back to Tony Corbell, for example. You go back to some of his old books. He's saying the same thing he said all those years ago, but he's saying it with a fresher voice. And people are like, wow, I didn't know that. And you're thinking, really? He's been talking about this for how many years? But Tony has that way of taking the knowledge and disseminating it to a new generation.
Absolutely. He's great at it. And I think that there's something to be said for the teachers that have been around for years, and they have such an expanded knowledge base, and all they're doing is cultivating a new audience. The younger photographers who may not necessarily have access to seasoned photographers who have worked in the industry for years and know how to apply these concepts and ideas that they're teaching. You can't get that necessarily from a YouTube instructor who's going to talk about things that they've only had experience with for 2 or 3 years.
Gotcha. All right. So now, what are some of the benefits by moving forward, by switching, by no longer producing the print version of PDN and Rangefinder? And by the way, what was the distribution on that? Do you have that information?
No, I don't actually. PDN had transitioned into 4 issues a year. It no longer had been a monthly publication. And I don't know what Rangefinder's distribution was over the last 6 months. Sorry, I don't have that information in front of me.
Oh, no, nope, not a problem. And again, you're the content. Originally, so you just got promoted to the content director.
Yes.
before this, you were in charge of conference producing.
Yes.
Right? So you were in charge of producing the actual conferences, and now you're got bumped up to content director, and I'll say a lot of prayers for you.
Well, thank you, because I am still the conference producer as well. So
Oh,
it's not
Lord.
like that went away. So,
Oh, man.
I've had a lot of experience with that, and I will continue to do that.
So you're juggling both the conferences and the content. That's very interesting.
Yes.
Now, as a content person, where do you find your inspiration for articles or for ideas for like Rangefinder?
Well, it's funny because here I was talking about things that are online. I am constantly reading, getting daily things, whether it's Petapixel or Photographer or do-it-yourself photographer, just getting all of that information in my mailbox every day to go over. And I also go to there's still other publications that are online, like, Photo Pro, and I believe it's Shutterbug. I always get the Shutter magazines mixed up, but that's still online as well. And there are still hardcore magazines. You have Click Magazine for the Click a Moms organization, which is a very good magazine. PPA still has a great publication. And so it's you have to really be on top of what's going on, as well as what's going on in the gear world. I check in with the Canon website, Nikon, Sony. They have their own content that they have online as well. So it's always a matter of just constantly checking, as you know, what's going on out there.
Oh, see, this is great. And again, that's how it's going to benefit, especially our listeners, is the content is fresh, and at the same time, you're still integrating some of the old techniques that they're the basics. You got to follow the basics.
Absolutely.
And by infusing the two, where I see this as a good change is there's going to be a lot less stress to try to produce hard copies, each month or every quarter. So I feel there's a lot of benefits on that end, which gives you more time for your staff to interview more people, or like our listeners. I mean, they can help out by logging in and requesting information on things.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Absolutely. Because we want to have cutting edge information for them. And so whatever they can communicate to us to let us know what they're really interested in and what they need to achieve their goals and have a viable business or keep the passion going in their photography, we're going to be able to provide for them on a daily basis.
Great. All right. Now, our next topic is going to be on Rangefinder will shift to an all digital content hub.
That's correct.
But now, before we do, let's take a moment and thank our partners.
Lume Cube. Lume Cube is proudly known as the world's most versatile light. It's the smallest, lightest, most compact professional lighting solution on the market. Lume Cube represents the future of LED lighting and is a must-have for anyone looking to create better photos and video. Check out the new Lume Cube strobe, offering anti-collision lighting for drones at lumecube.com. Drobo. Drobo is a smart storage solution that protects photos, videos, and more from hard drive failure, giving peace of mind for the working pro or serious amateur who have a lot of external drives cluttering up their desktop. Save 10% at drobostore.com with the coupon code Photofocus.
And we're back with Content Director for Emerald Expositions, Arlene Evans. All right, so Arlene, now before the break, we were talking about how Rangefinder will shift to an all-digital content hub. Now, with that, they made a comment that it's going to be shown exclusively at WPPI at the show this February, the 23rd through the 27th.
That's correct.
I believe in Las Vegas.
Yes, that'll be the last issue.
Gotcha. So, in print.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's what I was about to ask. So, Well, first question is, how are you giving the exclusive edition to it? And you just answered it. It'll be in print
Yes.
at WPPI.
Mhm.
Wow. So people are going to take 2 copies, one to read, one to put under a glass plate, so they can have, and then they can show, their grandchildren. Back in the old days, there used to
There
be
used to be
print.
magazines. It's amazing how many people we know who have saved their Rangefinder magazines over the
Yes.
years. I'm sure you know people as well who have, I don't know if they're hoarders and keeping them in their garage, but they have, years and years and years of Rangefinder, and which is a huge compliment to the magazine because it really is a great publication to keep and reference.
Well, great. So now you're putting that there'll be a greater integration between Rangefinder and WPPI.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Oh, okay. So this way, so WPPI and Rangefinder always sort of have had their integral relationship. I mean, the truth is that WPPI was founded because based on Rangefinder because it was around a lot longer. The organization came from Rangefinder, and then consequently the show came from that as well. So Rangefinder was always interested in finding out the trends, like I said, in wedding and portrait. And that's what we're doing at WPPI now. We're using, people who've been writing for Rangefinder, who are great instructors, who can come in and teach about all of these topics. And as we move forward, what's going to be important to the rangefinderonline.com audience is also going to be important to the WPPI audience. So we will definitely be cross-promoting content between the two sources.
Oh wow, I can see that can be very beneficial, especially like you just said. A lot of the content writers will also be the educators, at WPPI, and for those people attending the events, they get FaceTime one-on-one, and they can talk to them. And I'm sure at this event, you guys will be covering it for the magazine.
Yes, absolutely. We will be covering it for the online publication. And it's also a good way for us to talk to photographers and again find out what they want or what they need. And we can also learn that through who's going to which classes. We have 154 classes at the show this year.
Wow.
And we're covering, every topic imaginable except probably wildlife photography, bird photography. But those people are telling us what they're most interested in, and which is a huge help because, it's not only just what you learn in photography, it's business. How do you keep your business going? How do you run your business? We have a lot of classes in that, post-production, learning about Photoshop, those kinds of things. And those are also going to be topics that we're going to cover in Rangefinder Online as well.
Great. Now, with Rangefinder Online, will you also have videos, or will it strictly be written?
No, we'll have all types of media included in it. That's why we're working on a new website that will allow us to bring in all media types onto the
Oh
website.
wow. Yes. So I can see, having your crew at WPPI interviewing people, and then just talking, or just even going around the showroom floor, and watching some of the expos and some of the demonstrations. So I can see where this would be a really good. I see this as a very positive venture for a rangefinder could lead to.
Oh, I'm glad you feel that way. And we're hoping that everyone else will as well. We really have had rather positive and supportive feedback from our audiences. And I think that really has just reinforced what we did and why we did it. People understand
Exactly.
that.
Now, will people sign up online for a subscription, or how are they? Yeah, so how's that going?
It's not actually going to be a digital magazine. It's not going to be formatted so that it looks like a magazine online. It's just going to be set up as articles and information, so they will just be able to go to it at any time and find what they're looking for.
Wow. So it's free of
Yes, it
charge.
is.
Oh, wow. So, and for our listeners, just like Photofocus, it's a free online information for photography. At Photofocus, it's inspiration for creative digital storytellers.
Right.
But we all have to make a living somehow. So in that case, that's where sponsors come
Yes.
in, and you pull people in for advertisers. So people with the new Rangefinder hub, digital hub that you guys are creating, the content is going to be free. And of course, you'll just sift through the different ads and things along those lines.
Yes.
Well, that works out great.
Yes, it does.
Great.
And you're right. Photofocus is very similar in how they send out information to their readers as well.
Yep. And the difference between the two I could see is where Rangefinder, you're also going to be a news outlet to where when certain things are happening in the industry, which we'll talk about that in our next question, the state of the industry as a whole. Whereas we kind of stay away from the news, so to speak. This manufacturer closes and so on. If it affects our readers, then we write about it. But if it's just news, that's a different outlet. So with you as a content creator, how do you see the state of the industry as a whole?
Well, based on what we're seeing from the attendance at our shows, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, the industry is really suffering because manufacturers like Panasonic and Olympus seem to be in trouble, as is Nikon. But I see it growing because our numbers are growing, and we're seeing more photographers signing up to go to our conferences, which shows that people still want to learn. They want to see the gear at the trade shows. They want to go to the classes to understand what they need for their business and for their photography skills. So I see it as being more positive than I know other news outlets have been reflecting.
Yeah. And that's one thing is we've pushed it for so long about education. And if you're really serious about wanting to start a photography career, you need to invest in education. It's ironic, like we'll use lawn mowing. So when we were children and you wanted to make a quick buck, your father or mother would say, well, go borrow the lawnmower and go cut the neighbor's lawn. Now, keep in mind, I came from an Italian Catholic family, so the guilt trip was, you charge them? you didn't do it for free? So my father was also, he was a deacon in the Catholic Church,
wow.
but he was also an accountant. So he was realistic and said, Robert, charge a fair price. My mother, on the other hand, would say, well, how much did you charge them? And you would tell her, and she would say, okay, well, $5. Well, here, give me $2.50 for the church, and you keep. And my father would shake his head like, are you serious? But when we were children, that was the easiest thing to get into.
Right, exactly.
You would borrow your parents' lawnmower, and then, I've actually had friends back then that got excited, and they started getting so many clients. They bought a riding lawnmower.
Oh, wow. That was fancy.
And you're like, holy, and then you have to decide how far do you want to go.
Right.
With photography, the same thing has happened. It's so easy to buy a camera for under $500. People can actually get into photography. Now, the trick is you have to have the education that goes along with it. And I wrote an article on, is formal education necessary? And there was a twist to it. And the concept wasn't just formal education, but education itself. So whether you go to trade shows like WPPI, whether you read articles on Rangefinder or Photofocus, the concept is you have to further your education. You can't just reinvent the wheel on your own. I'm sure you've heard this over the years. People would say, wow, I'm an artist. I don't let other people influence my creativity. Are you serious? you got to get the basics. That's why a lot of artists have students recreate, simple things like a picture of a fruit basket, or they have them copy other art so they can get the idea down and the strokes down, and then you branch off. So I could definitely see where this new hub of the digital hub creation is going to be great for the industry, because now as a whole, we have more people taking photos, but with less
Oh,
experience.
absolutely. And we see that over the years at WPPI as well, because you see people cycling out. They'll come for 3 or 4 years and then you don't see them again. And it's a lot of the reason is because they haven't been able to sustain a business, and because they haven't had enough of a background and enough education to learn about what they need to do, which is one of the reasons we offer so many classes. And another reason why our online content will be very strong, because we're pulling from what's being taught at WPPI and also writing about that on Rangefinder Online.
Awesome. All right. So WPPI is going to be February 23rd to the 27th.
That's correct.
Right? Because that's in Las Vegas. And actually, our whole Photofocus team is going to be there. Rich Harrington,
he's teaching.
Our publisher. Yep. He's teaching the event. But what he's also doing the weekend before the event starts is he brings in all the writers for Photofocus, and we have our retreat.
Oh.
And so for 2 solid days, we brainstorm on ideas. He gives an ethics class on writing and what our responsibilities are at Photofocus. So it's kind of cool. Then we also sponsor a reader's breakfast, which is pretty cool. So I think we limit it to 50 people. We take them to a good friend of mine. He runs the Bayside Buffet in Mandalay Bay.
I heard it's good.
So, yes. So he runs that. And then it is so funny with Rich. He treats, we sit down with people, they get a free breakfast, and we pick their brain on where and where they want Photofocus to go and ideas. And I think Levi is also hosting a photo walk. So we use WPPI to re-energize all the instructors, and of course offer extra things to our readers.
Oh wow, that's a compliment to WPPI that you choose the show as a place to reinvigorate your creativity.
Yes, definitely. And I'm me personally, I've gone to Las Vegas for the last 20 plus years. So I've been there over 20, and I'm not a gambler and I don't drink. So to me, we get in, we work with the people there, with the attendees. We have a great time. We go out on photo shoots. We hit the desert. And it's a great way of networking and building, long friendships with Skip. In fact, with Skip Cohen, we were there, and Skip said, Vanelli, you and I live in the same state. Let's set up a time where we're going to have a guys' weekend. So next year at this time, we don't say, hey, we should be getting together soon. Let's set it up right now. And we did. And so it's kind of neat, just the bond, the friendship you create over the years with it. And obviously you have the same connection with Skip, all those years ago.
Right, exactly. But one of the main things that I love about WPPI is the community that it's created over the years. I mean, I know of at least 6 couples who met and got married because of WPPI. So, and every year you've got people that met the year before for the first time, and then they room together the next year when they come back to the show. So that's, for photographers, 80% of photographers work by themselves. So this is a really great opportunity for them to meet people like just like them, who are trying to achieve the same goals and have the same love for the craft.
Oh, that's great. Hey, so Arlene, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule today. This was very informative.
Oh, thank you, Vanelli, for having me on. I look forward to seeing you at WPPI in a few weeks.
You are listening to the InFocus Interview Show. If you like these interviews, be sure to subscribe to our weekly Photofocus podcast on photofocus.com. Thank you for joining us.